So on fellowship,
Yeah.
thanks to the Eisenhower Fellowship, I had the chance to study smart cities in the US and China. So truly, it, I don't know if there's truly is one smart city in the world. A lot of cities are on their way to integrating smart city technology. But the first large Chinese city that I visited was Beijing. On fellowship, I had the chance to travel to 5 different Chinese cities.
Yeah.
Beijing was where I started, and then Shanghai, Shenyang, Shenzhen, and Hangzhou.
That's really fascinating. And of those five, which did you find the most fascinating?
Oh gosh, that is such a hard question. The one that I think I resonated with the most was Hangzhou. And to be perfectly honest, I had never even heard of Hangzhou before I started my research on China and smart cities. Hangzhou has almost 10 million people in the city. So, I think New York is maybe
Right.
comparable in the US. And it's one of, I think, 20 cities in China with a population of more than 5 million. So China is just on a completely
Right.
different scale than the US. And everywhere that I went in Hangzhou, it's a very kind of coastal city. So there's a lot of waterways. Reminded me a lot of my roots in southern Louisiana. It's just a really, really beautiful town or beautiful city. But they integrate technology at every single step. So as you're walking through the city and looking at the beautiful vistas, ancient buildings, there's technology guiding your way. So I think they've done a really beautiful job of integrating innovation with just historical significance.
So really, in terms of China, a lot of people think of China as a third world nation with a lot of people, an incredible population. And what you're saying is that's not the case.
Not the case. It's a whole new China. And I think as Westerners, it's really easy to just watch the headlines and pay attention to the headlines and have that flavor our view of what's happening in the country. But from what I learned and what I experienced, they are incredibly committed to innovation. And as a result, they've moved 700 million people out of poverty in the last 10 years. So if you
Really?
put that on an American scale, that's 2 Americas that they've moved out of poverty. And I think some of the things that we struggle with in the U.S., things around digital divide and access to prosperity, to education, to healthcare, all of these issues that our local, state, and federal communities are challenged with, there are some best practices from around the world that we can incorporate, even though our countries are different, our traditions are different, our histories are different, our governments are different, our systems are different. And that's really the goal of my work in smart cities, is to almost cherry pick what's going right and use that to inform everyone who's collectively on the journey.
So in terms of the digital divide, are you saying that there are more people who are wired or connected to the internet in China than perhaps in
Oh,
the United States?
It, well, just from a numbers perspective, yes. So there's 1.4 billion people in China. So compare that to 300 some odd million in the U.S. It's a scale that's hard to wrap your mind around. But what's so interesting to me is that in China, everyone is connected through the mobile phone, and there's one platform called WeChat that everybody does every activity through. So here in the US, we have an app for mail, or several apps for mail, for calendars, for where to shop, how to review something. Chat is a separate app. How to pay for something is a separate app, and without naming company names,
Right.
you ride share through a different app, you share money through a different app. In China, it's all one app.
Really?
You can do everything through the click of a phone. It's all automated. It's so easy. And when I came back to the US, I was in China for 4 weeks, and I came back to the US, it was almost like a recalibration. Like, what do you mean? I can't do everything through one app? And it's just, very different systems. And again, I think that would be very challenging to do here in the US, just based on how the capitalism and the private sector works. I mean, that's a whole conversation. But I think
So
we can take some best practices away in terms of efficiency.